Good evening, good evening, good evening, good night, good afternoon, good morning. Whatever it is, wherever you are, welcome, 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 welcome to another mindful conversation. It is not all about love. I'm Sharika Anderson, the CEO of iEvolve Global, and I just want to say a very, 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 very big thank you for taking the time out to be with us tonight. Listen, we are in for a wonderful time. Now, we all know that February is celebrated as Valentine's Day, or many persons just recognize the day of love. But for many persons, the day is a constant reminder of the ordeal they went through. Plus, in the news, we have been hearing a lot about murder, suicide, intimate partner violence. And I know many of you are saying, what is this and what's happening? Well, you can count on mindful conversation to bring you information, knowledge, just about anything to educate us. So tonight, we are going to be talking about that. Now, I have the honor to host with me tonight none other than Miss Simone Richardson, and we will be hosting tonight. Hi, Simone, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Now we're in February, and everybody considers February as the love month. But tonight, it's
Yes,
not about love. And you might be saying, how
yes,
can she be talking about the love month and now saying it's not about love? Well, we're
because
saying
it's
that,
not.
right, it's not about love. We're going to look at the flip side of what happens in relationship. So just join us this evening, sit back and participate in our mindful conversations.
Right, and I just want to say a special shout out to Renee. Hi, Renee, welcome. I'm seeing Nathani. Natani has been with us from the very, very first mindful conversation. So thank you so much for joining us. Now tonight, we have a very, very interesting topic that we're going to be discussing. Listen, our experts are here, Simone. Our experts, listen, they are real experts. They have the expertise, they have the knowledge, they have the experience. Listen, I can't wait to get in. So just to give you
Nice
an idea, if
Renee.
you're listening, I know you just can't wait. Not true.
Yes.
Now, just to give us an idea of what we're going to be looking at, everybody said domestic violence. Everybody's talking about gender based violence. And now we are hearing about intimate partner violence. Listen, sometimes I confuse all of them. So I'm happy we have the experts tonight who is going to break them down. What is the difference? What is gender based violence? What is domestic violence? What is intimate partner violence? And what is it that we're seeing in the news? Right? We're going to talk about what is the statistics really like, right? Simone, we're also going to be delving into the myths and misconceptions. We are going to look
Yes.
for. We're going to be talking about the effects. What are some of the effects? How these affecting people? How can we help? Because people need help. Where they can find
Need
help,
help. Yes.
right? So I know people are already saying that they just cannot wait. They just cannot wait, right? And just before you go, Sister Simone, let me just shout out Sister Khadijah. I'm seeing Eloise Douglas. I'm seeing Marlene Brooks Sinclair and Pastor Conrad. Listen, we are happy to have you tonight. We are very happy to have you. All right, let's go in now.
Yes, we are thankful that you decide to join us. All of what you say sound very interesting, but you know what you forgot? You forgot to mention that we have someone who is going to share their story. Now, everybody likes a good story, and there's always something we can take from a story, whether it may seem good or bad. So, without any further ado, let's just jump in.
All right, let's welcome Lorian. Listen, Lorian is an expert.
Lorian Scarlett possesses a strong passion for promoting gender equality, women and youth empowerment and inclusion, and community development. She has worked with the Bureau of Gender Affairs for over 6 years and has contributed to national development through the capacities of senior social worker, rural sociologist, and shelter manager for the first national shelter for victims of domestic violence in Jamaica. These roles have equipped her with the knowledge and experience in undertaking effective case management, facilitating groups and community interventions in gender-based violence, GBV, as well as undertaking multi-sectoral partnerships to mitigate GBV in Jamaica. Her experience in gender and community development included her working as a gender specialist on a Canadian agriculture project where she focused on integrating gender equality and social inclusion across all the project's components. Lorian is also a public speaker, consultant, and strategic community planner.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
Good evening. Hi, Lorian. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy you're here with us tonight.
It's indeed a pleasure to be here and to basically speak about a very pressing issue that many persons tend to somewhat ignore, or sometimes they don't think about the issue until it's actually close to their doorway. So definitely a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. All right, now we welcome Mrs. Sharon Betancourt. I hope I got that correct.
Mrs. Sharon Hartley Betancourt is currently employed with the Ministry of Justice, Victim Services Branch in the capacity of Programs Manager. As a licensed counseling psychologist, she is responsible for designing, implementing, and monitoring the various psychological programs across the 14 parish offices, as well as led in the development and implementation of training programs for staff. Working with victims of crime for over 8 years, she advocates for and on behalf of this vulnerable population. Mrs. Betancourt has experience in the designing of the Intimate Partner Violence IPV tool utilized by her staff in initial screening process and identifying areas of a client's life that may be at risk for IPV and requires further assessment. She has a passion for teaching and learning and loves to help persons achieve their personal and professional goals. She is a motivator at heart and is happiest when she is involved with empowering others.
Welcome, 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 Mrs. Sharon. We're so happy that you're with us tonight. Listen, guys, you heard the bio. Simone, you heard the intro. You heard the intro of these two ladies. Listen, I'm
Yes,
encouraging
I
somebody.
did. I did. And I'm excited to hear what they have to say.
Listen, somebody needs to grab a notebook, grab something to take some notes, because tonight I can promise you we are in for an insightful discussion. But are we missing anybody, Simone? Are we forgetting anybody? Is this it?
Well, we do have our special guest.
Oh, of course. We have our special guest, someone who is an overcomer in every way, and she's here tonight to share with us. So, at this time,
Yes.
I want to welcome to join us Miss Tashi Lawrence.
Hello, good night, everyone.
Yes, Miss Lawrence, we're hearing you clearly. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So, thank you,
Oh,
everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Without any further delay, we are going to jump right in. All right, Simone, I think we should just go right ahead.
Yes.
We have said
Yes,
so
we
much.
are.
Let's just go right in, because I know Miss
Yes.
Sharon and Miss Lorian can't wait to start. So, go ahead.
Yes. All right. So my first question is directed at the two panelists. So we know many persons confuse different terminologies. We have gender-based violence, we have domestic abuse, and we have intimate partner violence. So can you help us by differentiating these three terminologies?
All right, so let's go with Sharon first.
okay, thank you so much. And yes, these terminologies sometimes are used interchangeably, but gender based violence is really violence directed at a person because of their gender. And it affects a particular gender disproportionately. And when we hear gender based violence, perhaps in the current context, it's mainly speaking about violence against women and girls. But it's really about violence directed at a person because of their gender. Then we're talking about domestic violence or domestic abuse. And domestic violence really and truly is violence, ag- any perhaps intentional or unintentional behavior or act, or threat directed at a person because of their close relationship. So it could be an intimate relationship, it could be a sibling relationship, it could be a relationship the person was in, but any domestic related, meaning that the person is related somehow, whether in an intimate relationship or biologically, and it is directed against them in that manner. Then we talk about the intimate partner violence now, which is a subtopic from the domestic violence. It's really speaking about violence against a person or in an intimate relationship. So they were involved, whether they're living together, husband and wife, whatever the context is, it is based on the fact that they are in or they were in an intimate relationship. So I hope that makes it a little bit clearer so we can understand those terms.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you
Pardon,
so
Miss
much.
Lorian.
Yes.
I'm here.
Miss Lorian, anything to add to that?
Um, to add to it, she spoke about the definition of gender-based violence. Everything has been on point. Just wanted to state some examples of what we're talking about. We're looking at gender-based violence in general. For example, trafficking in persons or human trafficking is regarded as a gender-based violence issue, right? Because, for example, we're looking at it being one of the third highest illegal trades worldwide, followed by guns and drugs. And a lot of times when we talk about gender-based violence, we're not looking at issues such as incest, which is actually a gender-based violence issue that a lot of times is swept underneath the carpet here in Jamaica, or it's a hush issue here in Jamaica. Another big ticket item that is actually a form of gender-based violence is actually sexual harassment as well, because a lot of times that women are actually, or females are targeted when it comes down to the whole issue of sexual harassment. And we do understand as well that men are also victims of sexual harassment. And I also want to point into the whole thing of murder or femicide, which is actually classified as a gender-based violence issue. And let me just cite to you, in India, in some parts of India, I don't know if the data or the policies have been changed, where, for example, if a woman is pregnant, because we know for a fact that they have a preference for males being born over females, what happened is that in order to protect girls, they actually prevent or ban women from being able to have ultrasounds. Because what is happening is, when this happens, let us say a girl is being born in India. For example, some parts of India, she's not able to go to school, or in terms of education is actually not a priority. Secondly, when it comes down to the whole thing of getting married in India as well, we have some parts in India where a lot of girls experience the whole thing of domestic violence or abuse in from the family of the man. And if the young girl chooses to return back to the family, there's something known as honorary murder, where this girl, when she goes back to her family, she's actually killed by that family because she dishonors the family itself. So these are things that we look at when we're talking about the whole issue of gender-based violence, as well as just one more point as well. In Africa as well, we have the whole thing of genital mutilation, where a lot of times girls undergo these things as young as, for example, age 6, 7 in some parts of Africa. And a lot of times, a lot of these girls, when these acts are actually being undertaken, there is no medication that is administered. And sometimes these girls, at the end of the day, they actually fall sick, and sometimes they end up they end up being killed, because of how severe the acts are, or how severe the injuries are, based on what is actually being done. So these are things that we're looking at when we're talking about gender-based violence. It's very, very big. I think Ms. Sharon has basically covered most of the definitions. It's just for examples, but I'll leave it until we go further down in the discussion.
Wow. What a way to start. what what a way to start.
That
I
was
see
a
somebody
lot.
somebody in the chat saying, it sure did. Opening
Wow.
question, and I'm already learning. I mean, that's a mouthful, but thank you so much for shedding light, because I'm guilty too of using the different terms interchangeably. But what we are learning tonight is that they are actually different,
Yeah.
right? So thank you so much for that. Now, just before we move on to question two, I just want to encourage our viewers to go ahead and share it with other persons. Share it on your platform, like, subscribe, follow us, so that you can be in the know. But go ahead and share it with someone that you know can benefit from this information. Now, there are some myths and misconceptions surrounding the whole topic of IPV and domestic violence, right? Different persons have different things to say, and I know sometimes we may say, "Oh my God, she loved the man so much she can't leave him," right? Why she loved the man so much, and it's because of love why she's still there. And so I want for the experts to break it down for us. What are some of the general myths and misconceptions out there, and what is true and what is not, because the truth is sometimes all of us confused, all of we confused. All right, so Lorian, you want to start first, since Sharon started first earlier?
All right, no problem. Definitely looking for the support for Sharon on this one. Some of the general myths or conceptions, quite frankly, one of the biggest ones that I've seen. If him not let me, not love me.
Oh Lord.
And what we're finding a lot of times is that based on the culture that we have, a culture of somewhat aggression, a culture that, guess what, in order for me to feel as if somebody loves me or they want me, they have to inflict wounds on my body. You have a lot of times that women actually believe that to say that if him not let me, him not love me, right? We also have, for example, some people believe that, guess what, if him not control me, right, him not love me. And that's another part of it that we look at, right? We look at the fact that some of the misconceptions that people have, that looking at the fact that, even for example, looking at an abuser or a perpetrator, where, for example, when the person hits the person, they say, okay, then a lot of times women start to believe that, oh, me deserve the beating that is actually administered. Me deserve it. Because the thing is that, let me just go back. When we're looking at the whole thing of domestic violence, I want you to just look at the fact that there are four forms of abuse that we're looking at: physical, sexual, emotional, or psychological, and also financial abuse. And I just want to point to the whole thing that if someone is able to basically control your mind psychologically, they can do a lot of things to you. They can say a lot of things to you as well, and do a lot of things to you. So the thing about it is, you have a lot of women out there, a lot of victims out there who feel validated when certain things are done to them. When they are experiencing abuse, they feel validated. So those are some of the things, are the myths and some of the conceptions that come up. I guess when Miss Sharon talks about it in terms of her being a counseling psychologist, then I can speak further on it. So, but it's very, very deep in terms of how persons understand the whole thing or the whole scope of domestic violence.
Wow, thank you so much, Lorian. I mean, that's just so profound, because the truth is a lot of women still think if him don't rough, he's not man enough. And if him don't beat me, him don't love me. Right? And I see Miss Tasha over there shaking her head, and I know she can't wait to share, but we'll give her a chance to share shortly. So let's hear some of the other myths. Lorian, you touch on the types, and I really wanted you to delve a little bit deeper after Miss Sharon share the myths.
Right. Thank you so much, Lori, for doing such a fabulous job. So we do have a culture of tolerance to domestic violence, a culture of violence, and also a culture of silence. And so we hear some of the violence coming out in our music, how persons interact with each other. And as Laurie said, it is used sometimes as a sign of love. If I mean, it's because him love me, why him beat me, and so that is part of our subculture. We also have a culture of victim blaming. So why
Yeah.
she don't leave? Why she still stay there? She didn't know say a woman beat a long time. Kind of we begin to blame the victim, not fully understanding the situation that the person is going through. Then we also have um a woman who gets beaten or domestic violence, she call it upon herself. Is because of what she's doing. She don't see the man jealous. And she's still flirting, or she's doing some things to call this thing upon herself. And these are some of the myths that are out there that will cause some of our victims. And when we go in a little bit further,
Mhm.
not to seek help because you do that. Also, there's also this myth that says a man's home is his castle and he can really do as he pleases. It is his home, he's paying the bills. So he has a right to do whatever he pleases. And there's also the fear and the stigmatization that is out there that persons are really and truly afraid of, and so they do not seek help. There is also, perhaps I want to add in this myth and misconception, that persons, there is even a mandate that says I don't want to lose my social status, because you're married and you don't want to be called divorced or anything else, or how are you going to take care of yourself, um, as how you are used to being treated. So there is this fear that they're going to lose status. And so these are part of the misconceptions and the myth that are out there that prevent persons from seeking the help that they would need.
Listen. These myths and misconceptions are so deeply ingrained that sometimes we don't even realize. Like I was talking to a colleague this week, right? And apparently she had an issue with her partner, and his hand hit her in her face and her eyes were swollen. And she said that she was talking to her, she was sharing it with her friends, and only one of the friend, this is her talking, she said only one of the friend asked me a very important question. So I'm wondering which important question is. She said the friend asked her, what did you do? And I'm like, she was saying that it must be that I did something to deserve this. It was my fault. And the
Yeah.
truth is, sometimes we don't even realize, based on what you're saying, Sharon and Lorian, that sometimes these things are ingrained in us. So we're
Yeah.
wondering, oh, it's my fault. What did I do? I didn't cook the rice good enough, or I didn't press the clothes, well enough, and I have earned it. I have somehow earned it. So thank you so much for sharing that. I just also want to encourage our viewers to please feel free to ask your question. These are the experts. They can answer you. So go ahead and post any question you have, and they will be more than happy to answer. Thank you so much for sharing the myths and misconceptions.
Wow, that was a lot. I mean, everything has been so much. Miss Laurie, can you help us to understand how common IPV and domestic violence is?
I definitely. All right. As it pertains to the women's health survey that was conducted in 2016, straight up, it says that one in every four Jamaican women has reported being physically and sexually abused by their partner during their lifetime. And when I'm talking about partner, I'm talking as well as ex-partner. And this speaks about how prevalent it is here in Jamaica. And whilst we're here talking about the whole prevalence of women being victims of domestic violence here in Jamaica, a study was conducted by Herbert Gale, who is actually a lecturer at the UA Mona, that states that while we're looking at women that are being battered in relationships or being sexually abused in relationships, he states that 40% of men are also being battered by their women in relationships as well. And another study has also shown that 70% of men are actually being emotionally or psychologically abused by their partners in relationships as well. And in terms of looking at all of that, again, I said it speaks about how prevalent the whole issue of domestic violence is here in Jamaica. Second to that as well, coming out of the JCF, Jamaica Constabulary Force, it states that, for example, in 2023, that approximately 8,500 cases of domestic violence was actually reported. 8,500 cases were actually reported. This is how big it is. And furthermore, just wanted to add something. Whilst we are always hearing about the whole thing of physical abuse, a lot of times we don't pay attention to the whole issue of verbal or emotional or mental abuse that, and which for the most part forms a foundation of physical abuse actually happening. Let me even continue in terms of looking at the statistics as well. It states that according to the same Women Health Survey, that one-fifth of Jamaican women reported being sexually abused before reaching the age of 18 years old. One-fifth of Jamaican women. And again, it speaks about how big the whole thing of sexual abuse is. And just thinking back, I was in a session recently where Sissooka was making was basically doing their reviews and making reports to say that um between the age of 10 to 13 years old, girls are at the highest risk when it comes on to sexual abuse between the age of 10 to 13 years old. And for the most part, when we're looking at the whole issue of sexual abuse here in Jamaica, it is not happening when it comes, it's not strangers for the most part who are actually facilitating or doing these acts. We're looking at the whole thing of family, friends. We're looking at relatives that are actually undertaking these acts as well or committing these crimes. And just to even mention as well, when we're talking about the whole issue of domestic violence, a lot of persons actually don't know this, where it states that 27.4% of pregnant women are more likely to experience physical abuse by their male partner than women who have never been pregnant. And I've seen this in more cases than one, where when the woman is pregnant, I've seen where women have been pushed off steps basically during their pregnant stage by their partner, right? And in terms of looking at the whole issue of even pregnancy as well, I recall a case where when the woman stepped through the door, salt and black pepper and salt was actually thrown in her face before the man actually abused her or actually beat her in that instance. And what she had reported to us is that it intensified during pregnancy. And you might be asking me as well, why does it intensify? And probably the counseling psychologist could probably provide you with that answer. But sometimes we do not understand as to the extent of why men abuse their women even more during pregnancy, right? We know for a fact is a form of control. We know that definitely, but more research needs to be done in terms of evaluating or assessing as to why this is actually happening. And there's one more statistic that I would want to provide before I turn back over to Ms. Sharon, is that statistics and surveys have shown that if a child grows up in a situation where, for example, a girl sees her mother being beaten by her father, if intervention is not done, she herself will find that when she enters into a relationship, that for the most part she will end up with a partner who will also abuse her, right? And if a young man grows up in a situation where he sees his father beating his mother, if intervention is not done, he himself will find that he will resort to beating his woman in order to deal with the situation. Because at the end of the day, we don't at the end of the day, children live what they learn, basically. So they see these things and they imitate it. And a lot of times parents do not understand when you're talking about the whole thing with generational curses, or talking about this thing running in the family where abuse is happening. For the most part, children live what they learn. So when they see these things happen, when they see their mothers being beaten, or their fathers the father beating the mother, for the most part, it can perpetuate where they themselves end up in this whole cycle of abuse as well. All right. So I'll allow Miss Sharon, if she has any more statistics, to go ahead and let us know. Yes.
Wait, then before Miss Sharon come on, because I mean, Lorian just rolled them off like, wait, hold on, we're still processing. We are still processing. Say what now? One in four? That
Yes.
that is frightening. One in four. That's a
A lot.
lot. That's alarming. Right? I mean, and this is something that we have to bear in mind when we're interacting with others. Because even for persons in the church circle, that is happening in the church circle too. So we want to
Agreed.
bear that in mind when we are at church, we are at work, persons may not come out and say it, but we want to be mindful of
And
it.
just before, Sharika, if you don't mind, to correlate with what Miss Sharon had said earlier in terms of us looking at the culture of violence or the culture of aggression here in Jamaica, the same Women's Health Survey spoke about that approximately 16.9% of girls, right, adolescent girls between the age of about 15 to 19 years old, thought that it was actually justified for a man to actually beat his woman in the case, for example, if she neglects the children. So because the whole thought process that it is okay, it is something that is actually perpetuated.
Wow.
Yes.
My God. All right, sis. I was about to say Sister Sharon. I say, the church people, them. All right, Sharon, you can go ahead.
Right. So, as Laurie said, one in four, but I just want to add the global statistics says one in three.
Three.
So, even though we're experiencing one in four in Jamaica, globally, it's one in three. And I'm glad she touched on the fact that men also experience domestic violence, and they are sometimes called the silent victims
Yeah.
because many of them do not speak because of how they perceive persons would respond if it is they attempt to report or attempt to speak that they are being abused by a woman. I want to also just augment what Laurie said in that, according to the JCF's report in 2021, 133 women were killed by their partners. We're talking about domestic violence, and it's all about someone you are in a relationship or currently in a relationship. And also, to add to what Lori says, underreporting is a major issue. It's a pervasive issue, and many victims remain silent, whatever the reasons are. Some of the myths and misconceptions that we spoke about earlier, those could be some of the reasons why, as well as men being those silent victims
Yeah.
who fail to report. So we do have a general challenge in getting accurate figures because underreporting is still a challenge.
Miss Sharon, thank you for that. And thank you for pointing out that men also suffer from gender based violence and also, domestic violence. All right. So the other part of my question, or my other question is for Miss Sharon, what are the signs we can look out for that would tell us that we are at risk of experiencing violence?
Wow, what are the signs? So, domestic violence will impact persons differently. So, not every single person will experience the same symptoms. So, if someone is being physically abused, you're going to see signs of unexplained cuts, unexplained bruises, unexplained physical injuries if it is that they are experiencing physical abuse. And they can't tell you, they can't give you a proper explanation as to how did they get that particular bruise right there. You may also see persons who, when they're around their partner, they're either anxious or afraid, or they're just trying to please this person, and they're different when they're around other persons, other family members, or other friends. You may see persons who suddenly can't recall seeing Lori in a long time. She started to isolate herself. So the victim may isolate or is being isolated, being separated from their family or their friends or from any particular support group. So isolation is one of those factors when the person begins to isolate and cut off family, and you're not able to hear what is happening, you're not able to interact with them as freely as you would want to. um Whenever the partner is around, they can't carry on a conversation. They might just say, I have to go, and cut off the call. And you realize that these behaviors only happen when they are around their partner. They may make excuses for the partner's behavior. So the partner might be perhaps rude or obnoxious in a particular instance.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of, the person apologizing or change their behavior, they make excuse. No, no, man, he's just having a bad day. Oh no, I did something to upset him, and he's just a little angry right now. So they begin to make excuses for the behavior of their partner, not expecting or not wanting to cause anything that will make the partner upset. So you can watch out for those things. The partner is always hanging around. Take the person to work, take them to church or wherever they want to go, and they're not allowed to go anywhere on their own. This partner seems so loving and caring that he's taking you to the supermarket and waiting patiently. And if you take a little bit longer, you start getting the calls. Those kinds of things may appear nice in the beginning, that he's so caring and so conscientious and so nice, but then it begins to get a little controlling, and the person is not able to make any independent decisions. But they have to check in with the partner if they can talk to you, check in with the partner if they can come and visit you, check in with the partner for every single activity. And if the partner insults them in front of persons, um, puts them down, this psychological abuse, putting them down and making them feel less than themselves in front of persons, and they do that on a continuous basis. um if the partner just shows up unannounced anywhere, drop them off and the partner is just showing up unannounced and begin to ask many questions and appears excessively jealous in situations like that. So those are just a few signs the person is not independent enough to make a purchase, because the partner controls the finances and only gives them exactly what it is they think they need. So these are some things you may notice if you're not within the confines of the person. You may notice these little things, and then you can begin, and we can talk about how we can help a little bit later. But these are just some things that you are likely to see in that, and Lori can support with some of the other things.
Okay, I can go ahead.
Yes, go ahead, Lorian.
All right. Well, Miss Sharon did an excellent job in terms of providing the signs and the signs of a persons who are in an abusive situation. But if you don't mind me, just gonna elaborate a little bit more. In terms of looking at emotional or psychological abuse, many a times in general, when persons go into
Yes,
relationships, one,
go ahead.
they go in there with low self-esteem. They go in there, for example, not knowing themselves, not having a self-identity. They go in there with, for example, their vulnerabilities and everything. And let me say to you, what we found for the most part, and I stand corrected by Miss Sharon, but perpetrators or abusers, they are very strategic in who they pick to be with, right? Or who they choose to abuse. Let me elaborate some more. When it comes on to the whole issue of emotional or psychological abuse, this is where, for the most part, it starts. It's the things that are being said and how you respond to it. And sometimes because you do not know yourself, right? You allow that person to define who you are. So they eventually manipulate you into believing certain things. For example, let us say you were in a relationship before. They may compare it and say, oh, look how Miss Sharon, look how you look nicer now since you're there with me, right? Or since we have been involved, look how I take care of you. So these are things, there's something called love bombing, where they're saying all the lovely things that you want to hear to make you feel good about yourself. So they build you up and everything, right? And I'm seeing where somebody in the chat is saying that sometimes they're jovial and friendly with other persons. And this is where we know of the whole thing known as narcissistic tendencies or behaviors that are exuded by these perpetrators. Everything looks good. Um, externally, but internally there's a lot of turmoil that is happening. And then when the person is able to undermine you, right, they build you up. So when they undermine you, they use what they were doing initially to basically bring you back, or to pull you back in. So let us say that they beat you, or they slapped you, or they abused you, whatever it is physically. They will say, but baby, remember, say, look what I was doing for you. So you need to, look at all the things that I've been doing for you from the get-go. So why you think you should leave the relationship because you get one lick? Or remember that you were being beaten in your relationship before. So
Before.
and I treat you so much better. So I don't know why you're behaving this way. Or even so, because they know of your vulnerabilities or your insecurities, they play on that. So these are things that we're looking at. Even to look at the whole thing of sexual abuse as well. It says forcing a partner into unwanted sexual practices. If you're in a relationship and we understand that there's compromise when it comes on to sexual intimacy, if you believe in a relationship where you're being forced to do things that you do not want to do beyond what you had compromised on, that can be regarded as a whole issue of sexual abuse as well. And we see this a lot of times when it comes down to even young girls being involved with persons who are much older, and vice versa as well when it comes down to men, right? And even to steer into another big ticket item that people do not talk about more, a lot of times is actually financial abuse. And Miss Sharon touched on it, where, for example, when persons are being paid their salary, the money is being taken, the money is being taken, and the person dictates how the money is actually spent. And these are things we need to pay attention to. And let us, even as we talk about the whole thing that abuse has no face as well, I want to point to the fact that we had an instance where this young lady, or this woman, might I say, that she was being paid. She had her good job in her receiving her good salary, and what was actually being done by her partner, he basically had her taking out all the loans out of her salary, right? And this was actually a tactic that he used to basically hold her or control her in the relationship, where basically at the end of the month, when she received her salary, after all the deductions were being done, she was taking home less than $5,000. And he had initially stated to her that he was the one who would basically provide for the family, which he was actually not really doing. But this was actually a tactic that he was using to control her. We've seen instances, again, a sign that persons need to look out for. If the person is calling you constantly, right? If you go down to the shop, they're timing you in terms of saying that, oh, 10 minutes to go to the shop, and they're calling you to say that, have you reached back from the shop? And even so, when you return back home as well, they're basically scolding you to say that you took longer than expected to basically come back from the shop. Those are red flags that you need to look out for. Another thing that we found as well, in terms of looking at signs, not to talk too much about it, but in terms of looking at signs, when you go out there, and for example, you may go out with your friends, and he's stating that he wants to video call you, or he or she wants to video call you to see who is in the background and stuff like that. You need to question. It might seem all good and dandy in the beginning, but you need to question: is this person tracking me? Is this person basically is this person trying to isolate me, or is this person trying to trap my steps? And lastly, just want to give another example. If you're in a situation where in which you the person is not calling you on your cell phone when you reach to work, but rather they're calling you on the landline at work, you need to question that as well. Because we've seen situations where, in order to track the victim, the person is, instead of calling them on the cell phone, they're calling them on the work phone. And we've seen where persons have to be at their desk to answer their office phone by a specific time stipulated by the perpetrator in order to track their steps or to track where they're at. So these are some of the little things that persons need to look out for. And again, I would also always encourage persons to basically know themselves. And a lot of times we can sense when things are going wrong. We can feel the red flag. We can see the red flags. But a lot of times, because again of, for example, childhood trauma, or because you're going through self-esteem issues, or you have your insecurities, sometimes we turn the red flags into orange flags and turn them into green flags eventually. So yes.
Wow, wow. Wow, that one is new. The calling the landline to make sure that you're at work certain time. That is a little bit creative. Not sure, a little bit creative. So, if I'm hearing correctly, so the clinginess and the control is not really love. We don't need to
No.
conceptualize that. Oh, he loves me, so he's calling me every minute to check on me. He's making sure that I'm home safe and sound. And if I'm out with persons, he wants to know who I'm with. You're saying that sometimes we need to pay attention to this
Yes.
because it's not just love. It's not just, oh, he loves me so much. Wow, those are very insightful. Lorian, you touched on the different types of abuse. Yeah, can you just say them again for us so we can? Because somebody may be saying, "Oh, at least my man now beat me.
Yes.
At least me not get boxed and kick." But at the same time, they may be in a situation where they're experiencing financial abuse and don't even know that there's something
Exactly.
wrong. So I don't know if between you and Miss Sharon, you can break down the different types for us.
All right. I guess I'll go first, and then Miss Sharon can elaborate further if needed. So the four forms of abuse that are there on the domestic violence, we're looking at one, physical abuse, and that looks at intentionally applying force to the body so that injury is sustained. We're talking about box, we are talking about kick, we are talking about broken finger, we are talking about sprained foot. We're talking about, for example, an iron being used to rub underneath your foot bottom, or you're being spanked when you come home, right? Or when they think that you've done something wrong. These are things that we're talking about when we talk about physical abuse. And it goes much, much further because we have a lot of innovative punishments that I've seen out there as well, or abuse that we've seen out there. We look at another one, emotional, psychological, verbal, or mental abuse that we call it. And what we're looking at when we talk about these things, verbally attacking, insulting, or ridiculing a person's sense of self, undermining your self image, your self worth, or your self confidence. And these are your ugly. No man now go want you after me left you. Comparing, for example, telling your partner that, oh, the man down the road perform better than him and stuff like that. These are things that we're looking at when we talk about undermining someone. I always say to people, say to persons, you can argue in love and respect. You don't have to break down another person's self-esteem or break them down or be disrespectful. You can argue in love and respect, right? We have another form, sexual abuse, forcing a partner into unwanted sexual practices. We spoke about the whole thing of compromise. And lastly, we're looking at the whole thing of financial abuse, refusing to work or share money, taking or controlling the victim's money. These are things that we're talking about. We talk about the whole thing of financial abuse, where you want to take with the person money or you refuse to work. Basically, I said that the person has to take in all the money. These are things that we're talking about. And I always say to people or say to parents when it comes down to financial abuse, blessed is a child that has her own or his own. Whether the man states to you or whether your partner states to you that, guess what, baby, Stay home. I'll take care of everything. I always say to people, have a skill. Have something of your own that in the case that guess what, the person kick your foot, you're not gonna drop on your face straight up. Blessed is a person that has his or her own, right? Because again, a lot of times, right, when it comes down to financial abuse, which is actually a very big ticket item that we need to look at, it is very, very prevalent and it's something that we need to pay attention to. Blessed is a child that has his or her own basically. So that's it when it comes down to the four forms of abuse.
Well, thank you so much for shedding light on that. So, we're learning tonight that it's not just, the physical, and that some of us may be familiar with the verbal too, but we're learning tonight also about the financial part, which to some of us may sound very foreign. But thank you for that. Miss Sharon, over to you. Anything to add?
Um, just to add, as Laurie did a good job in giving the four main areas, I just want to augment in emotional abuse that weaponizing someone's fear. They know you are
Yeah,
afraid of this, and they use it to threaten, to tell third party the information, or to, to just use it in order to cause harm, calling them hurtful names. That too is the part of the emotional. And just to add, just the examples in sexual abuse, reproductive coercion is too a part of abuse, forcing someone to become pregnant when they
pregnant.
really don't want to. Tampering with contraceptives, in that way as well, and using threats to engage in sexual activity, revenge porn. You video or take pictures and you threaten to share these images on public domain. But yes, those are the perhaps main um, forms, forcing somebody to work for free, stealing their money
Yeah,
and holding on to it, and to cause them to be financially dependent upon you.
upon
So
you.
even though the person is working, you have access to the bank account and you don't allow them anything at all, they have to be dependent upon you. Is part of it. So yes, those are the four main forms, and then you have the subsets of those.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to hear from Miss Lawrence, but just before she share with us her experience, just to pick up in the comment section. So we're seeing someone saying that men don't speak about it openly because persons would laugh at them, so they just keep it to themselves, which is a fact. And again, we can understand the underreporting because of culture, right? Another comment: sometimes the partner is jovial and friendly with others, that other persons will deny that this person is an abuser or this person abuses their partner. And someone says sometimes some women, this is so true, sometimes some women believe they can change the man, especially the Christian women. They see the red flags and ignore it. They believe things will get better, knowing that there is a shortage of men. And that is the truth. We ignore the red flags and pretend they are green. All right, Miss Tashi, you are ready for us? After we return, we will talk about how we can get help, where we can go for help. Miss Lawrence? All right, welcome, Miss Lawrence. Welcome,
Yes,
welcome.
yes. Thank you for having me. Um, I'm just want to congratulating the two person that speak basically everything. I've been through everything that they have spoken about.
Right.
Yes.
So we want to thank
So
you for being such a brave soul and being willing to
Indeed.
come and share with us. So can you start by sharing with us briefly your experience? What was
okay.
your experience like?
My experience begin from the age of 16. However, I was going through abuse with my mom. So I said, I'm looking a way out. So this gentleman come along. And I said, I'm seeking a way out. So I just jump out of the frying pan, never know that I was jumping into the fire. So approximately things begin to go smoothly for about not even 1 year, I think. And then basically he start to everywhere he going, he want me to follow him. If it is shop going, he want me to follow him. So I basically wonder really what's going on because I didn't have any experience of life. So when I got pregnant with the first child now, there is when the abuse start. Night and day, in and out. There's no other alternative. I have to sit in it. Come find myself, say, me not have anyone to take care of my children, them so me have to sit down in it. Come a second child, then come a third child. Abuse same way. Beat me night, beat me day, sometimes not even food to eat. I have no because if I talk to anyone in the community, he just get up and beat me. Kick me down, all of those things. So one day I don't know where I was going. As a grave digger in the community. So one lady come and say, Tasha, you not ready to go to the grave digging? Oh gosh, who tell the lady to say so? And that's where he start to beat me right in front of the people. Them, box me down, tear off all my clothes. This is not an experience or I think somebody should ever go through in their life. So it became stickier and stickier. So I said, I don't know any way out. The community was there to back me. So they said to me, you have to do something because you can't continue this way with dead and you have to put in them a group to consider me a condition. All right, Mr. Me did it. It didn't go work because mostly it's like coffee me pick farming. So when me do that, me no get no money. He ask me if me can work for pay myself. So him take all the money and just bring and just go shop by when feel like so me have to just stoop to it. This relationship I want many persons to know. It's not sometimes it's not about love. But sometimes you're in a relationship and you don't have another alternative at the point in time. So you constantly be in it. So it get worse and worse. And then I decide every night at 2 o'clock before day, 1 year when my daughter just popped my cup because he never give me any support to the children. Them. He only buy the food and sometimes we eat, sometimes we don't have anything. But as I said, thank God to the community people as a support system for me. And sometimes it's them alone me have to borrow money from. Sometimes I don't know when me I get it back to the people them. And that's the way children them go to school. And when it begins, when it get worse, 8 years, it's 26 years I'm in the relationship. And it begins to get worse and worse as when it comes 8 years ago, it gets worse and worse. And I decided every minute me have to call what be a police, Port Antonio police. Sometimes they come all the way from Buff Day. They always be there for me. And one day he come and say, "Oh, kill me." And I say, not giving no man no chance to kill me. But still me have nowhere to go because somebody put me up, my guy people in place gonna make problem me cannot stay there. And one officer come to me and said, I must take him to the court. That is the only way. And I said, me can't do that because me have nowhere to stay. And miss, that's how it all begins. I take him to the court. When I take him to the court, he still beat me worse and worse and worse. And my children them have to be my support system. At night we cannot sleep. And I say, how me come out of this? How am I going to come out of this? But you see, when God is there, you have a support system and don't give up. That is the main objective in life. There's sometimes no way, you see no way out, but you have to just trust your instinct. And as the lady in our last point said, woman must be self independent, depend on yourself at all times. Because it's when the man think you have to depend on him, that is where all hell going to break loose because they don't have no other alternative.
Wow.
And I could
Wow.
have died. I could have died. I could have been suffering from cancer now. I could have one foot, one eye. I remember with my third son, I was 7 months pregnant, and we went to bush, and so me cannot carry the load from the bush, cause when he look the yam, me have to carry it. And when I couldn't go, and he said me can't go, the man kick me down with my 7 month belly in the bush.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Miss Tashi. You know,
Yes,
I
miss.
can tell that that was a difficult experience for you.
Yes,
But
miss.
tell us no. No, no. You said that it 8 years ago it started. Are you
No,
still in that?
26 years, it get worse. It get worse at it begins
Oh,
at 8 years ago, it got worse.
right. So you endured the abuse for 26 years.
Yes, miss.
And then 8 years ago it got to the point where you say you can't do this no more.
No more. Yes, miss.
Right. So tell us now, where are you now? Is the relationship still intact? Did it end? How tell us now. What's happening with you
All
now?
right. It ends, but listen to me. This lady from the legal aid office, that she was a mean, mean person in my life at the
Source of
moment in
help.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because sometimes at 12 o'clock at night she called me, she asked me if me good. Sometimes I don't know if she send the police them, but them come, them call, they ask if me good. And then me get lose with contact with her number, and that's how it all begins. Because when me take this person to the court now, I never get to call her to tell her what's going on or what's popping. And she called me this evening. No, I'm out of that relationship 2 years ago. And miss, I am one of the most happiest person on the face of this earth. God has turned my life around in all aspects, and I never know that I would overcome it, but by the grace and my perseverance and determination, I have overcome it. I have overcome it.
Yes. Miss Lawrence, thank you so much for sharing with us. You know,
Yes,
I can imagine that that experience, as you said, that you would not want that experience for anybody else,
no.
right?
So
And
I
you did say that.
encourage you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I just want to encourage each and every one who is going through a state of abuse. Don't keep it to themselves. They might not lucky for as me to wait until 26 years to come out of it. They might not have that chance. And the next thing with Christianity, I have a problem with that. Many of us too, we are going to church and religion. Most pastors don't want to tell you, say, give you your divorce or try to work it out when you are in a dead situation, you are in a dead hole, and they are trying to tell you, work it out. Don't carry down shame on the church, or don't carry down shame on Christianity. At the same time, you are going to a point in time which can cause a life of death.
Yes. Thank you so much, Miss Tashi. I mean, you have been so brave tonight in sharing your story, and I'm sure somebody listening will be able to say, if Tashi did it, I can do
Can
it
do it.
too.
Yeah,
Right? So thank you so much for sharing that. All right.
yeah.
I'm going to go over to our two experts. Any comments on what has been shared? Lorian, I think I heard some of the types of abuse coming out that you share, like financial.
Definitely.
Did I miss any other? Physical, definitely, possibly emotional too, right? So we heard all of them, and it's almost as if like they walk together. So where one is, you may find the others too. So physical
That's
abuse,
true.
they normally have financial abuse and sexual abuse too. So thank you so much, Miss Tashi, for sharing that.
Yes,
Don't
miss,
leave
you're
us yet,
welcome.
right? We have just two more questions and then we'll wrap up for the night. How can family members support someone in this situation? Let me go to Lorian and then Miss Sharon.
All right. How can a family member or a close friend help? Definitely. This is what I would say. First and foremost, if you see, for example, let us say I'm going to use a case of me and Sharon. Sharon, if you see where, for example, may have black and blue eye, or I'm not doing well, or for example, I was performing very well at work and now I'm moving from A to D. Don't wait for me to come. You don't have to wait for the person to come to you. You can ask her, Lori, what is going on? You not look so good, Express concern. Express concern. Mom wants to say you're all right, you were doing so well, me there for you, right? Express concern, but do not judge or blame the person. And a lot of times, what we find is happening, and Miss Sharon spoke about it earlier, victim blaming, right? Do not judge or blame the person because, again, there are different dynamics when it comes on to relationship and as to why persons stay in relationships for so long, right? And if you don't mind me pointing to the whole thing of what Tashi had said earlier, where guess what? She never have nowhere to turn. She never have nobody to really and truly turn to. Hence why one of the reasons why she stayed in the relationship, right? We're saying to people as well, listen and validate. Right? Listen to what they're saying. You're not there to basically give them the solution, but rather listen to what the person is saying, right? And assure them that you're there for them. We're also saying to you, guess what? Not pressure the person for left them relationship. And this is why I'm gonna explain why I'm saying this to you. Right? One, we want at the end of the day, when the person leaves their relationship, they feel empowered to leave that relationship, right? And I'm talking to you from a counselor perspective or social work perspective, where one, what we find is that sometimes when family and friends pressure the person to leave their relationship and they do end up coming out of the relationship and end up struggling out there, at times they end up blaming the family and friend to say, oh, guess what? You see, because you make me leave the relationship, look what happened to me. Me worse off than how I was before and stuff like that. So we want persons at the end of the day to actually be empowered to leave their relationship. I'd also say to persons as well, straight up, when I say do not pressure him or her to leave their relationship, when two head go on pillow and nighttime are two different things. And you might, for example, go say to your friend or go say to your family member, say if you left Robert because Robert this and Robert that or whatever the thing is, and when they go through a night of love making or when they sleep together in the bed, she might end up turning to Robert and say, say, I this true this and I must leave, or because we've seen instances where persons have had to be relocated or have had to run from their community because of basically saying that they want a friend is saying that they should leave their relationship and they went ahead and tell their man that their friend said that they should leave the relationship. We're also saying to persons, for example, if your friend or your family states that they want to stay in the relationship, it hard enough. It's very, very hard. If you see your family, your friend experiencing abuse and they said that they want to stay, right? We're saying to you that when I say you be there for them, be there for them, right? It's not, I always say to persons as well, and at the same time, leave proper water bottom, it rotten. And sometimes you might think that what you're saying is going on deaf ears, but you might not know how much is actually impacting that person when you support them, when you encourage them, when you're there for them. Do not place conditions on your support. What I mean by that is do not say, oh, because you're not left a relationship, never cut it off and I'll stop talking to you. Again, when it comes down to relationships, it's very dimensional, it's very dynamic in nature. And again, there are different reasons as to why persons have not yet gone up and left their relationship. Very, very dynamic in nature. So again, we're saying support the person, be there for them, as well as guess what? We're here at the forum right now, here on this platform. I'm saying if you can get brochures and provide that person with that brochure or point them in the direction of, for example, a social service agency that can actually provide support, do that for that person. But ensure for a fact that you're there to support that person no matter what. Just be there for them because they actually need that support, especially when it comes on to the whole thing of the partner might end up isolating them. They need your support. All right. So I'll allow Miss Sharon to elaborate more on it.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Miss Sharon.
Thank you, Lorian, for especially just reminding persons that, and as Tashi said, leaving is not easy. It is
Easy.
a process, and we have to work through the process. Because not only will you put the victim at risk, you also put the service providers at risk as well. And so we don't encourage leaving. We work out a safety plan and
Mhm.
then we work through with the victim. I love what Lorian said. Just continue to support. They might not leave today, they might not leave next week, but just continue to let them know that you are there, you are willing to support, and let us support them tangibly too. Suppose you can quietly put them up for a night, help them out in some way when they are ready. Let them know that you are there to support, and make sure that you continue to support them, believe them. If somebody come and tell you that really and truly this is happening in the relationship, and I know we had mentioned Christian context to some extent, believe them. Believe them that this is happening. Don't minimize what they're saying. Don't tell them that it's not important, or the good man, or anything like that. Just believe them. Be patient. Listen to the story. Let them tell you at their own pace. Maybe them come and tell you one thing today. Next week they come and tell you another little piece of the story. And when they're able to, they tell you pieces of the story and you're able to put them together. So be patient, allow them to put it together, because remember, their safety is at risk by just sharing the information
Yeah.
with you. Again, Laurie mentioned it. Don't blame the victim. Build some trust with them, because they need persons they can trust. They don't know now who to trust. I don't even know who to trust, because if they say something, it might get back to the ears of their partner and it would be worse for them. So build the trust in the meantime. Let them know that they can trust you with their information. Let them know they can trust you with this big secret. Again, remain available to them just in case they need you. Let them know they can call you 2 o'clock in the night. If they run away, find themselves out, they can call you. You can't say I am there, and then when they need you, the only
Mhm.
time they were able to get away is 2 a.m. and you're not available because I'm sleeping at that time. Or no, man, that past my bedtime, I can't help you. Let them know that you are available and remain available,
Feel.
because it may not be convenient when they're able to get away. It will be at an inconvenient time, and you want to make sure that you're remaining within your commitment. So that's just to augment what Laurie said. Just reassure them and provide the comfort, and just be there. You might not even be able to say something because you don't know what to say in some situation. Just be there for them. Be a listening ear that they can tell you what is going on, what is happening, so that when the time comes, you're able to assist.
Wow, thank you so much, Miss Sharon and Lorian. Truly, tonight we are hearing of practical ways that we can support our friends and family members. And one of the things that Tashi said was that lady, that legal aid lawyer, that kept calling. Even 12 o'clock in the night, she was calling to check in. And that really was very, very instrumental in her getting out of this situation. So family and friends, I know sometimes it can feel frustrating because sometimes we move them out, right? And then they go right back and we have to move them out again. They call and frantic and say, I'm
Yes.
ready to leave. And you move them out and then they go right back again. So what we are hearing tonight is don't give up, but continue to lend your support. All right, we're almost at the end. Over to Simone.
Yes, you are family and friends. You are important. You are important during those trying times. All right. So for persons who are experiencing IPV and domestic violence now, what can they do and where can they get help? Lori?
All right. Thank you very much. The Bureau of Gender Affairs, or let me say the government in general, they have undertaken a multi-sectoral approach when it comes on to dealing with the whole issue of intimate partner violence, domestic violence issues. At the Bureau of Gender Affairs, based on the demand, and we see the concerns of persons who need this assistance. For victims of domestic violence, we actually have a 24-hour helpline. Yes, a 24-hour helpline where persons can actually call in. You can WhatsApp. I'm going to give you the number shortly. You can WhatsApp. You can send a please call me. You can call them and say, call me back, right? Right? So these are things that we have put in place, and we have number for both males and females. For the number for females, if you need the help, right? Even if you have a question, if for example, if you're really and truly a victim of domestic violence, you can call this number. The female helpline number is 876-553-0372. The number is 876-553-0372. And let us say you don't get through on that number immediately. Let us say, but I know you will get through. You can try and call this number as well, 876-236-1716. That's 876-236-1716. And for the males, if you need the help or you need to talk to somebody, the number is 876-553-0387. That's 876-553-0387. The government, as I said before, has taken on a multidisciplinary approach as well, where we also, at the Bureau of Gender Affairs, we have shelters at undisclosed locations across Jamaica. So if you need the help, we will basically work with the police, right? Work with the police in terms of transporting you to these shelters at undisclosed location to help rescue you. And you might be asking, what about my child, right? If needs be, definitely we are able to facilitate or accommodate children as well at our shelters. And it's not no broken down shelters that we have. We have top of the class shelters, I must say to you, because again, I've worked as a shelter manager before, and I can say to you, the government is here for persons who are victims of domestic violence. Secondly, as well as in terms of working with the Jamaica Constabulary Force as well, what they have actually done is they now have police officers that are specially trained in the area of domestic violence. Where if you come to the police station and you want to make a report about domestic violence, you do not have to stay in the guard room. You're actually directed in a section where you speak to police who are actually not in uniform, right? So you can feel more comfortable and everything. So even regarding the domestic violence eye care centers, right? They're located across Jamaica, and the police is working to increase its presence to ensure for a fact that they are in all 14 parishes. But for now, they're in the crucial parishes where we see where there has been an increase in domestic violence. For example, here in Kingston, we have two domestic violence eye care centers, one at Matilda's Corner and one located at Constant Spring Police Station. Again, if you need the numbers, definitely I'm here to provide the numbers, as well as I can pass it on to our moderators where they can provide it with the numbers for the domestic eye care centers. Just to mention as well that we work as well with the crisis center hotline, and that is where the women's crisis center, where they also have a shelter attached to it as well, where persons can actually call in, and the number for the crisis helpline is 876-929-2997. That's 876-929-2997. That is if you want to reach out to them, you can definitely reach out to them, and they can also provide you with counseling services, as well as they can accommodate you in terms of you need to be rescued from your situation as well. I'll allow I'll allow Miss Sharon, in the case that she wants to add in terms of looking at the victim services division to provide the necessary information.
Yes, thank you so much, Lori. And I just want to just emphasize that dealing with this particular issue is a collective effort Really and truly, one service provider cannot provide all the services that the victim needs, because we refer to the Bureau of Gender Affairs sometimes. You can also reach out to the Victim Services Division. Counseling services are provided to victims of crime free of cost, and they can be reached head office 876 946 0663, and we will direct you to the nearest office. You also can reach out to your healthcare providers. The health centers have been trained in assessing for intimate partner or domestic violence, and you can reach out to those service providers who will also make contact with the various gender-based activists or other NGOs who are able to assist. Don't forget your church, the church community, the faith-based community. We've had trainings with some faith-based communities, and they have been so updated in this information. One thing that Tashi said that is very, very, very important. She said the community assisted her. And so I want to just emphasize that the community is perhaps the very one of the very first points of contact. And so as a community person, as a neighbor, as an extended family member, as a church sister, as a church brother, as a co-worker, colleague, somebody you pass on the road or you've heard about, you have the ability to help someone. And I'm just grateful for this platform so that you are now aware of some of the providers and you are aware of some of the flags and signs to look for so that you're better able to help someone in need.
All right. Thank you so much for directing us where we can get help. That's very, very, very helpful and insightful. All right. So we have someone posted a question in the chat, but just before that, I'm not sure if Sharon, you are Lorian, can touch briefly, not in depth, as to from the law perspective, we don't have to go in depth, but is there anything specific to IPV or domestic violence? Again, doesn't have to be anything specific, but can you speak to what exists?
I'll go first. As it pertains to the Domestic Violence Act, it has now been amended, right? Where previously, the fine as it pertains to being a perpetrator of domestic violence initially was actually $10,000, right? But no, the fine has now been increased to $1 million, right? So this is actually a very, very great jump for us at the Bureau of Gender Affairs because it's something that we have been advocating for a number of years now. So we're very, very happy that the changes have now been coming. In addition to that, when it comes on to looking at the whole issue of domestic violence, there's some acts I'm just gonna mention. You have the Sexual Offences Act that they use, as well as you have the Offences Against a Persons Act that is also used as well when it comes on to domestic violence. Previously, because they would say that the Domestic Violence Act did not have much teeth, so normally police officers or I guess legislative officers, they would actually turn to the Sexual Offences Act or the Offences Against a Persons Act when it came on to the whole thing of passing any form of ruling to ensure for a fact that person's actually got justice.
All right. Thank you so much, Lorian. Sharon, anything to add to that?
Yes, just to add that also under Domestic Violence Act, a victim can apply for two orders, a protection order and an occupation order. And the protection order really is just to restrict the perpetrator's contact with the victim. And the occupation is to ensure it just gives them the right to occupy the home or the place where they are and to ensure that they can use the household items. So victims can apply through the court system for these orders.
All right. Thank you so, so much. We are at the very end, but there was one question in the chat that I think I want to direct to the counseling psychologist, right? So this one I'm going to direct to Sharon. The person asks, Lorian, if you know, you can chime in too, okay? The person asks, please help us understand the anxious attachment that women tend to develop with their abusers, sometimes unintentionally.
Okay, yes, and that's a very good question. So I just wanted to backtrack a little. So an attachment style is really and truly, or the attachment theory, does states that a child or a person develops their attachment through the how their primary caregiver relationship experience is. And so, if it is that your caregiver was warm and provided nurturing experience, you will be securely attached. But the one that they're asking about is that when you're anxious, this is a type of insecure attachment style that is rooted in fear and abandonment. It means that during their early days, the caregivers did not provide that warmth, did not provide that care, did not respond to their needs. And so, as an adult, they now they become fearful of being abandoned. This particular attachment style will cause someone to be susceptible to abuse. They would rather, in one of the myths that I may have mentioned, they would rather have an abusive man than no man at all. And
Mhm.
so they will endure, they will put up with this particular treatment because they fear abandonment and they fear being alone. So it's really and truly just how it is their upbringing, what happened earlier on, and how it affects them. And so they see themselves as, I don't want to feel abandoned. I'd rather have an abusive man than no man at all, in a
Okay,
nutshell.
wow.
Yes.
Wow. Lorian, you're going?
Yes. Well, what we normally term this as at the bureau to an extent is trauma bonding as well. Right, where for example, as Miss Sharon spoke about it, in a lot of times persons do not understand that what you went through as a child greatly impacts on your relationships that you're having as adults. And how we see it as well, because she elaborated on it, we see at the bureau where there, for example, four times of childhood trauma that persons go through. You have abandonment trauma, you have betrayal trauma, you have rejection trauma, as well as you have humiliation trauma. And based on how you experience this as a child, it can basically translate into how the type of attachment style you will have in your relationship itself. And as it pertains to, for example, abandonment trauma, it can lead into the whole thing of anxious attachment as well, where, for example, because you're so used to be abandoned by, for example, your caregivers, you have this fear or this anxiety or even become very jealous to the fact that, guess what, if the person leaves you, you'll do anything at all to basically keep that person within your scope or in the relationship. So these are things that we look at when we're talking about, for example, anxious attachment, or for example, we find that persons who are insulting their partners constantly, it can be from the whole fact that you experienced betrayal trauma when you were much younger. So these are things that we're looking at. There's so much to unpack when it comes onto the whole thing of domestic violence, and I'm hoping that we'll have another session to unpack looking at attachments and trauma bonding as well. And just to quickly state, when we're looking at trauma bonding, sometimes what we find is that you will look for quote unquote similar experiences. So for example, if you grew up where you saw you grew up in an abusive environment, you find that you look for an abusive partner who can actually relate to what you went through as a child, right? So that's a part of trauma bonding, as well as you have the whole thing of looking at narcissistic or the whole thing of manipulation. So Miss Sharika, there's so much to unpack when it comes down to anxious attachment as to why persons behave or perceive things in different ways.
Wow. Thank you so much. That sounds like a part two is in the making. All right. We are going to bring tonight's show to a close. But just before we do, let me just give 60 seconds Miss Lorian, 60 seconds. Miss Sharon, 60 seconds. Miss Tashi, 60 seconds. Closing remark.
All right. I would say to you first and foremost again. It's not same time that leaf drop a water bottom a rotten. Meaning, if you're in a situation where you are being exposed or you're a victim of domestic violence, get out from early. If you see the warning signs, get out from early. Right? Because we know about the cycle of abuse. And I'm saying to persons, if you need help, get the help that is needed. No watch no face, no watch nobody a blame you and they talk bad about you. Go and get the help from early, right? And again, I'll say to persons in general, there is help out there. And for example, if you go to the police station and get the help from the front desk, ask to speak to a superintendent or ask to speak to somebody else that is in charge. But run for the help that you need. Do not back down. All right?
All
Help is
right.
here.
Help is available. Miss Sharon, over to you, and then Miss Tashi.
Right. So I want to say that the first step in reading the nation or the world is education and raising awareness. So we all have to become advocates in raising awareness against domestic violence. Helping them, someone who has experienced domestic violence, is really and truly a delicate matter. And we just want to remember to be there for each other. It is what makes us stronger. If it is we have the collective support, the understanding, then we can build a country where love and respect is triumphant over fear and harm.
Wow. Thank you so much. Miss Tashi, 60 seconds. Anything, any closing remarks? Let me unmute you. All right. I can go ahead now. Wait, Miss Tashi. Miss Tashi, we're not hearing you. We're not hearing you. And it sounds like we want to hear you because it looks interesting.
Okay. Okay, you hearing me now?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say to all person, whether it is man or woman that is in abuse, seek help very early. Seek help very early. Don't wait until it is too late. Because abuse
Well
is not
said.
that easy. It's not easy to be in abuse.
Well said. Thank you so much. Simone, anything to add?
Yeah. I mean, this evening has been, this topic has been amazing. My eyes have been open to a lot of stuff. I've learned a lot and I see where I can help others. I mean, it has helped me also. And I am thankful for our panelists for taking the time out to come and share, and for Miss Touch for sharing her story. We just, wow. This evening is just, I can just only say wow. It has been an amazing evening.
Definitely. Wow, sums it up nicely. So again, I want to say a very big thank you to Lorian. Very big thank you to Sharon, Tashi. Thank you so much. These ladies did not hesitate. They jumped on board and they were so willing to come and share with us and break it down and help us to understand that really it's not about love. There's so much more to domestic violence. There's so much more to IPV, intimate partner violence, than love, and so tonight we are very grateful for your time. Thank you for coming, sharing your knowledge, and our viewers who have been with us from 1 to now 3. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming, participating, sharing your questions. Listen, we cannot have mindful conversations without you. All right, and finally, thank you to the tech team who are working behind the scene and helping us to execute. Thank you again. I will see you month after next. Which month is that? February, March. I'll see you April for another
Super.
episode of Mindful Conversations. Thank you for coming, everybody. Have yourself a wonderful night.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take you.
Thank you.
This now for fast forward.
Welcome to iEvolve Global's official website, your online portal for initiating becoming a better you. Our website features several services geared towards evolving into that person you dream of through coaching, mentorship, counseling, speaking engagements, and much more. Our website boasts a change corner with quotes, verses, tips, and tricks to get you through that rough patch, in addition to our self-help corner, which gives you all the tools, resources, and statistics about mental health and the process of change. Our website aims to get you engaged. It's filled with the resources you need to become a better you. And if ever you need to talk, contact us. Our team of experts are waiting to assist you. Welcome to iEvolve, the roadmap to a better me.
Thank you for tuning in to Mindful Conversations. See you soon as our series continues. Remember to like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to our social media pages. It's time to evolve for a better me.